Hi, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. It's Sunshine Lorena, and today we're going to see how many of these 100 books I have actually read off this list. So I got given this by a friend at Christmas time, and I did want to make this part of my, goals for 2022, but I didn't get around to doing this until now, so later than expected, but I do want to see how many of these I've read, and then I'm going to try throughout the year to tick off more from this list. So from this, as you can see, it's 100 books, a scratch off bucket list, so I'm assuming that it's like the usual type, 100 books you need to read before you die type list, that books that are on here. And I opened it during like a weekly vlog, and I only just saw the top, so I haven't seen the full thing, so I'm going to take it out. But you can see it's like going to be like this big poster, and there's like scratch off, there's a little thing underneath. So yes, I am super intrigued to see the full list, because like I said, I only glimpsed at it that time that I opened it, so I want to see what are on here, and yeah, how many I've actually read. I've got a feeling that it's going to be less than 20. Maybe even less than 15, guys. Let's face it. So yes, that's what I'm going to be doing today. So let's open this up. And it's got some paper on top, so let's get rid of that. And yes, I don't know how... This is going to be a fun video to do, isn't it? This is going to be fun for me to attempt to scratch this off. I probably should have unrolled this before, guys. Probably should have. Regrets are happening. I don't want to damage the poster. Yes, this is going to be a little bit difficult to film. I'm going to have to change my setup. But it's this. This is it here, and we're going to have to change setup so I can actually go through it, scratch it off with you guys. So I'm going to let that roll back up. We're not going to look at it. I'm going to fix my setup so you can get like a good view of it. I'm going to have to use something to kind of hold down the poster, guys. So bear with, and this is all going to change in a second. And I'm back, guys. It's a bit of a better setup. I'll readjust the camera slightly so you can see a bit better down here. I have my penny. I'm going to be scratching these off, and we're going to be speaking about it. And yeah, so I haven't actually looked at it yet, guys, but I noticed down here when I was like putting the books down, it said a first book has some of the sweetness of a first love by Robert Artis Wilmot. And then there's also down here another one. Every one of these books is a wonderfully written masterpiece. Please take your time and enjoy every minute of these incredible stories, which I will fully intend to. So yes, let's get into it. Let's see how many I've actually read of these. And then at the end of this, I'm going to decide how many I'm going to attempt to read in 2022, guys. So I'll put a link down below, a link to, if you ever wanted to get this yourself, 100 books bucket list. It'll be an affiliate link. I'll earn something very small from it, but it'll be at no cost to you if you did use that. But yes, let's get into it, guys. So the first one on this is American Gods by Neil Gaiman, and you guessed it, I have not read it. I have seen some of the TV show, but I never finished it. I did find it quite interesting from what I had watched, so maybe one day I'll read that one, guys. Probably not this year. Number 2 on here is Lord of the Flies, which I have read. I read that when I was at school, so yes, we can scratch one off. Okay, guys, so it looks like under each of these you get something that is linked to the book. So it looks like it's a little pig or boar here that we have under this one. So we have one scratched off so far. Okay, and the next one is Siddhartha. I have not read that. I do know what that's about. So I'm going to have to look it up after this video to find out, guys. The next one is Sophie's World by Justine Gardner. I've not read that one, guys. You guessed it. A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. I have not read it, but at least, I have heard of it. There is that. Then we have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which I read in summer of 2020 for the first time. I really liked it. It was really short, quick read. I love the 1920s. I love that setting. I thought The Great Gatsby was a really kind of good book. I can't remember, I think I might have gave it 4 stars. It is one that I would like to reread one day, but it's a super quick read, so I could maybe fit it in again this year because it was really good. And we have glasses underneath here, guys. We have some glasses. Then the next one is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, and I read that when I was at school. I really enjoyed it. I thought it's a very good book. And I haven't read it since, actually, I don't think. So it is one that I want to revisit and see how it is on a second read. Like I said, I studied at school, and I feel like when you do read it and study at school, you look at it in a very different light. So I think it'd be interesting to read it just for pure enjoyment this time. And I have seen the film as well. And it is a Mockingbird, funnily enough, that's underneath it. Then we have Matilda by Roald Dahl. I read that when I was a kid. I really liked reading Roald Dahl's books. Matilda I really liked, and I really enjoyed the film. I've seen that film so many times. Yeah, so I feel like Roald Dahl books, when I was growing up, you know, I mean, they've been around for years, obviously, but I feel like every kind of British kid has read at least one of his books. Yeah, they're really good. Matilda, I liked Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Twits, guys, The Twits. The Witches, that one was creepy, guys. For a kid's book, I thought that was quite creepy. And I need to see the new film and see how that is, but I like the old film. And we have a chocolate cake, guys, obviously, for Matilda. Makes perfect sense why that's there. Okay, and then the next one we have here is The Complete Art of War. I have not read this one, but it is on the Rory Gilmore reading list, and you know, I feel like I'll get to it at some point, and people are always saying like you can learn a lot from it, so I'm definitely going to pick up at some point. So it could be this year, so that I can get like, I want to read 10 of those books from the Rory Gilmore list, so maybe this will be the year that I read it. And the last one on this row is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sleep by Philip K. Dick. I have heard of it, I haven't read it, and it's like science fiction, if I'm correct, I think. In science fiction, I'm not the biggest fan, guys. I don't do too well with science fiction, so I don't know if I will actually ever read that one. I need to look up the synopsis and see what I think, but yeah, I'm not a science fiction gal. Then we're going to go into the next row, guys. So, Swivel and Turn. We have Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. I have not read it, but it's one I do want to read, but it is really chunky, so I need to time it well when I pick that one up. Then we have Murder on the Orient Express, which actually, I have it here, don't I? I am currently reading, and I have very little left. I'm not going to scratch it off now, but when I finish this, I'm going to scratch it off. So, we're this close to having another one. I mean, I've read 4 so far of this. I mean, that's fine. That's good. Good. So we have potentially 5. Then we have The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat by Oliver Sacks. I have not read that. Then we have Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. I have not read it. I've seen the TV show, they did it in 2020, like around spring, but I watched it in summer. I do have the first 4 books to read, because for some reason, I never actually picked it up when I was a teenager, but I do remember seeing it on the shelves. But I wasn't really aware what the book was actually speaking about, because the cover, the old one, was like black and white and like a knot and a cross, and it wasn't really very apparent to me what the book was about. Moving on. In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Not read it, guys, you guessed it. Frankenstein, yes, by Mary Shelley. I read it last January 21 for the first time. Really loved the writing style. I think the writing style of the 1800s I really enjoy, the women writers of that time. And I thought Frankenstein was really good. I enjoyed it. Gave it 4 stars. That is officially 5 actually scored off, but we know I will have the other one by the next few days. I will scratch it off, which will be great and fantastic. Okay. Then we have Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I have read it. I didn't read it when I was a child, I don't think. I did read it like in 2020, the Rory Gilmore readathon. I enjoyed it. I have seen like the Disney adaptation like loads of times. I've also seen the People one that came out in like the 2010s time, wasn't it? and I enjoyed it. I think it's a good story, and it's a children's classic. And yeah, the Cheshire Cat. I will show you in a minute all these ones that I've scratched out, just for you to get a little update. But yes, looking good so far. Read more than I thought. Maybe we will reach 20, guys. And next we have The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I have read it, guys. Oh, we're doing so well, we're doing so well. I didn't really like this book though. I read this in like October 20, I want to say. I'm not a fan. I did have like an audiobook and I had the physical book. And yeah, I just didn't get on with it that well. I don't think I really liked the fact that, I feel like the mystery was kind of taken away. I like knowing that somebody's gonna die, like if there is like somebody's gonna die in a book and you find out before it happens, I do like that. But with The Secret History, you actually knew who it was, and it was just kind of a build up working out what the circumstances was, who was it in the end. But I kind of like not knowing who the victim is, because it adds the extra level of, you know, something. They are really pretentious as well, these characters. Yeah, not a fan, guys. Not a fan, and I will not be picking it up again. Okay, and then we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I have not read that one, but it is a classic that I do want to get to at some point. Then we have 1984 by George Orwell, another one, guys. I'm actually doing way better at this than I thought I was, like really. So I read this one last year, another classic, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's really still relevant today, like, you know, you feel like that could happen. So yeah, it's like a dystopian, and I do enjoy a good dystopian, and it's a TV set, obviously. I do enjoy a good dystopian, guys. Yeah, fantastic. I'm gonna tidy these up afterwards, I think. But yeah, I'm gonna have to do a lot of cleaning after this. But yeah, let me show you which ones I've done so far, so you can see the little images. Okay guys, so here they are so far. So you can see all their little images. It's really nice. I need to scratch some of them a little bit better, but yeah, it's really nice. So we have 8 so far. I feel like I'm doing amazingly well. And let's see if that continues. So yeah, let's go on to the third line, guys. I've swiveled the table. And we have The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I have not read this, guys. I have not read it. Then we have Norwegian Wood by Murakami. I've not read this one, guys, you guessed it again, but it is one I do want to pick up. I've never read a Murakami book and I really want to, so that will get scratched off at some point, guys, it will. Then we have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kensley, and guys, you guessed it, I have not read it. But it is like a modern classic, and it is one that I'm thinking of potentially picking up. It might be in the Rory Gilmore list. So yeah, potentially picking that up at some point in my life. Then we have The Man in the Iron Mask by Alexander Dumas, and I haven't read it, guys, you guessed it. I have seen the film, which I know what this list isn't that, but I have seen the film, guys, but not read the book. Then we have The Colour Purple by Alice Walker, and I've not read it, guys. However, I do have this on Kindle, and I do really want to get to it. I would like to get to it this year, actually. So it is on there. I am trying to read books from like my Kindle and the ones that I physically own, before like kind of going out and buying more books. I'm trying to do that a lot, reduce them down this year. So I really want to get to it this year. Then we have The Girl's Dragon Tattoo by Stein Larson, and not read it, but it's on my shelves, guys. It's on my shelves. It has been there for years. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been a good 5 years, but I will read it, and I do actually want to read it this year if I can. I feel like I'm saying that a lot about these books, but it's been on my shelf long enough that I need to pick it up, guys. I need to pick it up. Then we have Lolita, and I have not read this one. I don't know if it is one that I will pick up. It's one that I need to kind of have a little think about and see if it is one that I want to pick up, just because the topic's covered. If you have read it, let me know what you thought of it, if it is one that you think I should pick up. Yeah, let me know in the comments below. Then we have Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Not read it, seen the film, and I know it doesn't count for this, guys. Then we have Harry Potter series, and I have read it. I am a child of the 90s, so obviously I've read it. So let's scratch this one off. Guys, this is making my fingers a bit dirty. So then the last one on row number 3 here we have is His Dark Materials trilogy by Philip Pullman, and I've not read it. Then we're going to go on to the 4th row. So that's a bit disappointed actually. I only got 1 in the entire row. I feel like I started off so well, and now we're going downhill, guys. So on the 4th row we have The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway, and I've not read any Ernest Hemingway, which that needs to be corrected at some point, but yes, not read it. Then we have The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, which I have read, and I read this in 2020. I enjoyed it. I think it's a good classic. I really did enjoy it. Okay, then we have The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I've not read it, and that title does not ring any bells to my mind. I'm going to look it up after this video. Ulysses by James Joyce, not read it. And then we have Bad Science by Ben Goldacre. I've not read it, and again, I've not heard of this one. I'm going to have to look that up. What's Bad Science? Is that like a non-fiction? I want to check now, because now I'm curious. What's bad about science? I do not recognise that cover. It's about criticising mainstream media reporting on health and science issues. It's published in 2008. I'm going to put it out there and say that I'm probably never going to read that. Doesn't sound like my kind of book, so that one is probably never going to get scored off. Then we have I Captured the Castle by Judy Smith. Not heard of it, not read it. I will need to look that one up and find out what it's about. And then we have Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson. Again, not read it, do not recognise that title. I feel like I have got a lot of books to look up after I've filmed this and edited this video, because I have no idea. Then we have Les Miserables. I do not speak French, and I'm sorry, and I apologise for that pronunciation. I have seen the film. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to read it one day. I just haven't done it yet, and I feel like it might be a bit chunky, so I need to again plan well and read it at a time when I have the time to dedicate to actually reading it. And then we have The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I've not read it. It's not one that I read at school. I know some people do. I think it's more Americans read it at school. I've never read it. I need to read it one day. I need to look it up. Let me know if you have. Is it worth it to read? Let me know. And the last one on here is The Wind and the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. Now, have I read this? I remember seeing like The Wind and Willows when I was a child, but did I ever read the book? Did I actually read it? I'm gonna go with, I'm not gonna scratch it off because I do not have a clear memory of actually reading it. So I'm not gonna scratch it off because then I'll be lying. I'll be lying because I can't. Yeah. Again, this is another line that I've only scratched one off. So definitely going downhill, guys. We're definitely going downhill on this. Okay guys, so let's see how many I've got so far. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 10 is not bad, guys. I've got 10. You know, I was thinking like 15, 20, so we're doing okay so far. 5th line that we're on now. Wild Swans by June. Wow, I really need to put my glasses on, guys. This isn't, you know, we'd actually be reading what we're trying to achieve here. So, we have Wild Swans by Jong-Chan. I haven't read it, and I haven't heard of that one. There is quite a few books on this list that I haven't heard of, which is really interesting to me because I always assume it's going to be like always like these really like super famous ones, and it could be, and I just could not know about it. We will see when I look it up afterwards. Then we have The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. I haven't read it. I've seen the film. I really enjoyed the film. And I know I said like sci-fi isn't really my thing, and I know this is like sci-fi, but I really enjoyed the film. So definitely I think I'm going to pick up like the first one. But yeah, that is one that I would like to pick up at some point in my life. Then we have Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, and that is a mouthful. I have heard of it, I have not read it. Okay, next one we have Crime and Punishment, which I have not read. I am yet to pick up a Russian classic. I have Anna Karenina on my classics TBR again this year, guys. I was on last year's one, let's ignore that. So that's going to be my first Russian classic. But yes, I do at some point want to pick up Crime and Punishment and War and Peace, but these Russian classics are massive and chunky, so probably not this year, because I already have some other massive chunky ones. Like I said, I've got Anna Karenina to read, so but I will. I really, I want to read some Russian classics and see what they're about, because people always seem to really like them. Okay, and then we have the Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. I have never heard of this one again. Then we have The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. I haven't read it. I own a copy in Spanish, guys, because I studied Spanish at university and had good intentions of reading it in Spanish. And I did not, and I haven't read it. I haven't read it in English either, guys. Let's move on, because that's terrible. Then we have Gulliver's Travels, which I have not read, but I've seen the film. I feel like there is a running theme throughout this. I have seen the films but read the books, and yet I call myself a booktuber. Yes, guys, yeah. I will. I'm going to correct some of this, guys. I will. Then we have The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. I have not watched the film and I have not read the book on this one. But yes, I know it's the one that had that really famous like radio broadcast, and like people thought this alien invasion was actually happening in real life, which is a bit of a fun fact about that one. Apart from that, I don't really know what it's fully about. Again, it's like sci-fi, so would I pick this up? We don't know. We don't know. We'll need to think about it. And then I have Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, which just mentioned, guys, on my classics TBR again this year. So I definitely want to pick it up this year. 2022 is the year that I pick it up and read it, and then we can have another one crossed off on here. I have not, what's the last one? Freakonomics by Dunbar S. Levitt. I've not heard of that, and I have not scratched off any in this line, and I knew this was all going downhill. I told you guys it was going downhill. Okay, let's go on to the next line, and hopefully I can score one off on this one. We have Game of Thrones by George R. Martin. I have watched the series, absolutely love it. I have not picked up the books though, but I really do like that series. I really want to actually rewatch it. I want to rewatch it. I think one day I definitely will pick up the books. I think they're a bit on the chunkier side. And there's so many books, guys. There's so many books I want to read, and there's just so little time. But one day I will read it. Then we have The Help, yes, by Catherine Stockett. Yes. I read this back in 2014-15. And look, oh, a piece of pie, obviously. That's, if you've read it, you know. And I've also seen the film. I really enjoyed it. I actually still have it on my shelves here. And yes, it's set in like the 1960s in America in the South, and it's like it's about like the black women who are maids, nannies, etc. for these white women, and it kind of goes into this whole story. I'm not going to say too much about it, but I really enjoyed it. It is one that I would like to reread. Look, at least we'll have one scratched off here. Then we have Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. I read this when I was in school, guys. Let's score it off. It has been a long time. It has been a long time since I read this. I definitely want to read it again. What is the little picture? It is... I am so blind. It's like cleaning supplies. Okay. Then we have I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Not read it, guys, you guessed it, but it is on my shelves. I do own it. I've owned it for quite a few years. It was the year that I was like, I set myself a goal of 12 books because I hadn't read in a few years, and I failed that year, spoiler. But I have that, and I really want to get to it this year. Definitely want to get to it this year because I want to read a lot more non-fiction, and I already own this one, so it makes sense to actually read non-fiction that I own. Then we have American Psycho, which I have not read, and I have not seen the film for once. But yes, maybe I'll read it one day, let's see. And then we have Notes from a Small Island by Bill Bryson. I have not read it and I've not heard of it. I have a lot of books to look up, as I've said this before. Then we have Macbeth by William Shakespeare, and I have not read Macbeth. No, Macbeth I haven't read. but I will. And his plays aren't that long. I read Othello the other year. So yes, I can see myself picking that one up at some point. It's probably on the Rory Gilmore list as well, so 2 birds, 1 stone. Then we have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I have not read any of them. I've seen the films, and it's been years since I watched them, but oh, they're so good, aren't they? So maybe I'll pick it up. Okay guys, sorry, the battery died. I had to plug you in and charge you up, but I'm back. I am back, guys. So I was speaking about Lord of the Rings, and yeah, not read it. I don't really read these epic kind of high fantasies, but it's something I definitely want to read at some point. And then the next one we have is A History of Venice by John Julius Norwich, which I assume is a non-fiction about the history of Venice. I haven't heard about this title in particular, but I do want to read more actual historical, it's not historical fiction, but like non-fiction historical. So maybe I can start with that one. Then, sorry, I need to get more comfy. Then we have The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. I have not read it, and I have not heard of that one. Assuming it's non-fiction about science. Then we're going to go on to the next line, so we're going 1, 2, 3, 7. We're going to go on the 7th one, and it's A Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which I have read, guys. I read it back in like 2018, 19, I want to say. And I really enjoyed it. It's a dystopian, and I feel like it's really relevant even today. It was written in like in the 80s, but I feel like it's still relevant, and the TV series is really good as well. I really like it. So yeah, it is a cross necklace. Okay, next one we have A Wild Sheep Chase by Murakami. I have not read that one, and I've actually not heard of this one by him. I heard of Norwegian Wood, but I haven't heard about this one. Then we have Schindler's Ark by Thomas Kingley. Not read it, guys, you guessed it. And then we have London Fields by Martin Arms. I haven't even heard of this one, guys. You need to let me, these ones I'm saying that I've not heard of, you need to let me know in the comments if you've heard of them as well, or is it just me and I'm just a bit, not aware of books that I should be. Then we have The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I have heard of this one, but I have not read it, guys. Let's move on swiftly. My Man Jeeves by P.G. Woodenhouse. Not read it, guys. Then we have The English Patient, which I have heard of, but I have not read, guys. We are not, like I said, we're not doing great now. We're really not doing that great. At least I've scored one off on this line. Then we have The Mill on the Floss by George Eliot. Not read it. Then we have The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. I have heard of it. I do know like the general story about it, but I haven't read it. Again, I think it's a thick one, it's a classic that I think I would like to pick up, but again, I'm not going to be able to pick up all of these chunky classics in 1 year. They're going to have to be divided up across my life, so at some point, you'll see it. Then we have The Commitments by Roddy Doyle. Not read it. Let's move on to the next line, guys, where I will hopefully at least scratch off at least 1 line. So, we then have Gladys Aylward, The Little Woman. I have not read it. Then we have Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie. Not read it, not heard of it, guys. This is not going well for me at all. There's a lot of books that clearly I should know about. I'm going to have to do a lot of research after this. Then we have Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. I have heard of this one, but I have not read it. Then we have The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas by John Boyne. Watched the film, haven't read the book. Then we have Hamlet by William Shakespeare. I have not read Hamlet. Yeah, no, I've not read Hamlet. It's not all the ones that I've read, but I will get to it someday. Good Night, Mr. Tom by Michelle McGreen. Not read it, and I have not heard of it, guys. We're having a running theme here. Then we have A Dissolution by C.J. Sansom. Not read it. The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I haven't read it. I haven't read any H.G. Wells. Then we have Winnie the Pooh, The Complete Collection by A.A. Milne. Winnie the Pooh, I loved watching the cartoons when I was younger, watching the films by Disney. Really enjoy it, but I have never read the books. Then we have the final one on here is Animal Farm by George Orwell. Yes, okay. So I read this quite a few years ago. It is quite a short one, but again, it's another really popular one. It is a bit dystopian vibes as well. Again, he covers off like a really important topic. Yeah, no, it's a really good one. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it as a classic to pick up. It's like a modern classic. It's one that it's worth it. And we have a pig, obviously, on here. Okay, we're now going to move on to the second last line. At least again, I did one on that row, you know. Feel like I should be doing better, but you know, there's only one row so far that I haven't had one scratched off at least, so there's that. Right, next one. We have The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. I read that when I was a teenager. Yeah, I think it's one that everyone should read. I read it as a teenager. And I actually we went to Amsterdam 2018, 2019. 2018 we went to Amsterdam and I went to Anne Frank's house, so I actually saw obviously where everything took part there. So yeah, it's an important one to read, definitely. And it's a diary that's underneath on this little image. Okay, and then we have The Enchanted Wood by Edith Blythe. I've not read this one, and I know a lot about her books, but I can't remember ever reading any of them, like the famous Five, etc. Maybe I read, but yeah, not read it. Then we have Dracula by Bram Stoker. I have read it. I did not like it, guys. It felt like it went on forever. I'm not going to rant about it again. If you want to hear about it, I read it last March. It's in my March wrap-up of 2021, and then also my worst books of 2021. Guys, we don't need to like dwell on this. I did not like it, okay? And it's a coffin, obviously, that's underneath here. Then we have All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Maria Remarque, and I've not read it. Then we have Bridget Jones' Diaries by Helen Fielding. I have read it. I've read it a couple of times. I just feel like it's a good fun, feel good, you know, book. And I know, like, in terms of like the weight discussion, like weight, dieting, etc., is, you know, obviously very much of its time because it's written in the 90s, early 2000s. That's how things were, like, culturally at the time. But things, we have moved on, and you know, we know that isn't a healthy kind of view. I still think it's really relevant, the book, because she's still speaking about these, you know, society's expectations and kind of how you feel like you need to live up to them. So I don't think it's completely like not relevant in that terms. So I think, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've not read it in several years. I kind of don't want to go back to it because I have good memories, you know. I have good memories of it now. I've read the second one as well, but I haven't read, I think there's a third book and potentially a fourth one as well, but I haven't read them. But I love Bridget Jones. She's just like a classic, you know. It's just, oh, it's so good. And the films, I love the films as well. Great. Then we have The Kite Runner. And I have not read The Kite Runner, but it is one that I definitely want to get to. I'm going to move again, guys. Yeah, but it is one that I definitely want to read, and I will one day. But you know, so far I've scratched off 3 in this row. Feels like we're picking it back up again. And then we have Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Yes, I read this for the first time April last year. Really enjoyed it. I get a 4-star. I couldn't believe that I hadn't read Jane Austen before that. I had tried and didn't get on well, but it was several years before. But yes, absolutely loved this one. 4 stars, brilliant. And we have an outline of a man and woman that's obviously supposed to be Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. Okay. Then we have To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. I've not read it. I read Mrs. Dalloway a few months ago, and I was not a fan. So honestly, I don't know if I'll pick this one up because I don't know if it's just her writing style. and that I don't get on with it. I'm not too sure. It was one, I'm not going to promise I'm going to read that one, guys. I'm not going to promise. Okay. Then we have Memoirs of a Glacier by Arthur Golden. I have read this. I read this in high school. I remember when the film came out, and then like the book, I can't remember what shop it was. It was like, it was cheap, and then like everyone was like reading it, and then like, you know, went to see the film. I enjoyed the film. The book definitely has a lot more details. Usually, yeah, you know, that's how things are with books. But I really enjoyed it. And it's on my shelves, and it's like a really like old favourite, but I haven't read it in years, and I definitely want to reread it. And then it's obviously a geisha that's underneath this one. Okay, then we have Misery by Stephen King. Oh guys, this is the 5th one in this row. Guys, okay, we're pulling it back. That middle section there, you know, we weren't doing well. We're pulling it back. And I read Misery. It was like one of the first, well, not the very first King, but one of the first Kings that I read. I did the 24-hour readathon. It's a vlog on my channel, and I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. I definitely want to reread it. It's a great winter book because it has a snowy atmosphere. It's a wheelchair that's underneath here, obviously. And Annie Wilkes, I love her as a character, and it's such a great story. But for the majority of the book, you just have these 2 characters, and they are in like this closed setting. And Stephen King does a fantastic job to keep you like interested and engaged in it, and just fantastic. So yeah, it was a 5 stars for me. Okay guys, then we're going to get on to the final row. We have The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. Now, I have read a couple of the books, one of them being The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, The Prince of Persia, and I read the first one, which was like the whole setup of like kind of the world of Narnia. I can't remember what it was called. I may have read one other, and I had the full set. I remember got from the works, I had the full set, but I never read them all, so unfortunately I cannot scratch it off because I haven't read all of them. It is a kids series. I could do it because they're really quick, short books, so I'm going to try and do that one day so that, you know, we can score off that little corner. Then we've got Watership Down by Richard Adams. I remember this from when I was a kid. I definitely watched it, but did I read the book? See, the thing is, I did read a lot when I was younger. That's why when I looked at The Wind in the Willows, like, did I read it? I read a lot when I was younger. Like, I went to the library all the time, and it's potential that I could have read it, but I don't have any memories of reading it. I just remember watching it, so I'm not going to score it off, but I was a big bookworm, so the chances are I could have actually read it, and I just don't remember. But we'll leave as is, guys. We'll leave as is. Then we have The Odyssey by Homer. I haven't read it, and I feel like that is one that I probably should pick up, or attempt to pick up and try and read it. It's just one of those books, isn't it? Then we have War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Not read it. Do definitely want to read it one day, but that is a real chunky big boy that needs to be tackled with some sort of plan. And it's not going to happen anytime soon, guys. It's not on my list of classics I want to read this year, so not going to happen in 2022 for sure. Then we have Bird Song by Sebastian Faulks. I haven't read it, and I have not scored any off on this line yet. Let's hope I get one at least. Then we have Tell No One by Harlan Coben. Not read it, guys. Then we have Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I have not read it, guys. We're not gonna end well, are we? Then we have A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Not read it. Only Dickens that I have read is A Christmas Carol. Then we have Middlemarch by George Eliot. Not read. And there's one square left. What is it? Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and I have not read it, guys. So the last line, nothing. But with Jane Eyre, it is on the classics I want to read this year. So we're going to read it. So then at least that line can have one scored off on it. So I'm going to bring you down, show you all the little squares, and we're going to count up how many I actually read. Okay guys, so you can see all the little squares. There is a lot of unscratched ones in that middle section, and as you can see, none here. Let's count these up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20! Yes! Guys, can you believe it? I actually got 20. I didn't think I was going to actually reach that number, but I have 20 out of 100, which honestly, it's not that bad. There's quite a few in here, like I said, that I have on my list to read. A couple in there that are my classics to read this year, so I should score those off. if I can score off another 5 by the end of 2022, I will be happy. But I feel like 20 is good. It's a good number. I feel like that's maybe above average. It's probably not. Can I even call myself a booktuber if I've not read at least, like, you know, 30 or 40 of these? I don't know. But let me know if you've read these, how many you have read. And yes, I will do a check-in in about a year's time, and you can find out how many extra ones that I have actually read of this. But if I could read at least 5 of these, if I can read 5 more of these, I will be super happy. Yes, and I will keep going with this. And like I said, there's a few on there that I am never going to read. I know that for a fact, so I'm never going to have read all 100. I'm not going to just read it to score it off on there. Although, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. So that is it. Comment, like, subscribe, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. I post on Wednesdays and Sundays, so hit that notification bell, subscribe, and yes, see you on Wednesday, guys. Bye.